Before we dive in, if you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance you're building your birth work business on your own. And honestly, that's one of the hardest parts. The Your Birth Biz membership is where you stop doing it alone and get monthly coaching, community, and the kind of support that actually understands this work. Doors are opening really soon for a very short window. Get on the waitlist at yourbirthbiz.com/membership waitlist, and you'll be the first to hear when they open. Now, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the Pregnancy and Postnatal Entrepreneurs Collective podcast. I am your host, Niamh Cassidy, and I am a mentor for birth and postpartum workers. And I'm also an IBCLC and antenatal educator myself. And today I want to talk to all of you about dealing with that isolation of being self-employed and of being self-employed in general, and I suppose in this industry as well. But to get there, I need to take you back to the beginning. And the beginning starts with my first pregnancy, which was unplanned with someone I wasn't even in a relationship with. Now, I'll skip forward and let you know that we are now 7 years married. Today is actually our anniversary. Back then, things were tricky. The pregnancy wasn't well accepted by a lot of people in my life, and my friendship group diminished really, really quickly. And I found myself pregnant in my early 30s without the support system of my friends around me. And at the start of that pregnancy, without a partner either. It wasn't long before we decided to give it a go. And my now husband was worried about me. And he found a class for me to go to, which was called Relax, Stretch, Breathe, and is like a movement and antenatal class. But what drew him to sign me up for it was that there was a social aspect to it. And he saw how hard I was finding the pregnancy with the relationships that I'd lost. So this class was my first introduction to antenatal education, to meeting other people who were pregnant, and to the community that I eventually joined, which is QuidU, which is an Irish parent support charity. So after my baby was born, I attended the breastfeeding group of the same charity, and I went every week. And eventually I trained as a breastfeeding supporter as well. But while I was there, I got a lot of support from the other mums in the group and from the volunteers, because the purpose of the volunteers is that they're that little bit ahead of you so that they can help guide you and they can help tell you that everything's okay, and they help give you information that's going to help you on your journey. But also what I found there was my own community. So one of the things that they did is they had what they call a baby link group, and parents they came into the breastfeeding group one day and they said, does anyone want to set up a baby link group? It's basically where a group of parents whose babies are around the same age, you form up a little group, and you go to each other's houses once a week or play centres or whatever like that. And so they'd offered this out to the breastfeeding group, and everyone's like looking at the floor and not wanting to be the one to kind of say me. And while I'm quite shy, I can't stand those situations. It makes me really uncomfortable because I feel sorry for the people who are asking the question. So I said that I would set up the group, and I took the names and phone numbers of the other women in the group who were interested in joining. And then we set up our Baby Link group, and that Baby Link group are 13 years later, or almost 13 years later, my very good friends. So what I learned through my pregnancy about isolation was kind of twofold. One was that, if you don't have a community, join one. So I joined that QuidU community, and then I felt like I needed more. So the weekly groups were great, but it wasn't necessarily the same people all the time. So then what I did was I said, okay, I'll create this other community. And I was given a bit of assistance from the original group to do that. What I learned was sometimes that you have to join a community to get the support that you need. And sometimes you have to create one, and both are valid. But I know that sitting in the background and waiting for support to find you, that one doesn't work. And if I hadn't have kind of agreed to go to that initial class and then put myself out there, I have no idea what my parenting journey would have been like. I found it hard already, so I can't imagine what it would have been like without that support that I got from those communities. So all of this is what brought me into self-employment. I got that support with QuidU. I trained as a breastfeeding volunteer. Then I trained as an antenatal educator and set up my business, running antenatal classes on the weekends. And then I did the lactation exams to become a lactation consultant as well, and left my social care career behind to do this exclusively. So I did have some initial community when I was setting up my business. So the organization I trained with, which was CRIDU or Antenatal Ireland. A lot of us trained together. So I did have a community of other antenatal educators around me, and we would cheer each other on and help each other out. And I also had some of the breastfeeding supporters who also trained as IBCLCs around the same time as I did. What we were missing was someone further along who'd actually figured out the business side as well. So we were all great at doing the work, but we hadn't got a clue about how to run a business. And while we were training more and more antenatal educators, hardly anyone was actually managing to fill their classes, because we were just a bunch of antenatal educators and none of us were doing very well at promoting ourselves or getting clients. Now, when I was setting up to be a lactation consultant, I did seek out support from one of our breastfeeding mentors, Fiona Ray. And I asked Fiona, because there was a few of us doing the exam together, I asked Fiona, would she run a starting your own lactation practice workshop for us, basically, which she did. And that was really helpful I didn't know what I needed to do to be a lactation consultant. Like, I didn't know how to create an intake form or what I needed in my bag or about insurance or different things like that. So Fiona took us through those aspects, which were really, really helpful in getting started. But what I was still missing from both my antenatal training and my breastfeeding support training was that no one taught me how to run a business. I still had no idea how to get clients. So I muddled along for a while on my own, and then I said, listen, this isn't working. So I started seeking out more and more support. And I joined a general kind of women in business membership. Now, it was really expensive. I wasn't making any money at this stage. I hadn't even paid back my training from the few little clients that I'd had. But I really felt I had to do something. And actually, it was really, really helpful, even though it was quite generic. And only about 30%, I'd say, of the content that was covered was relevant to me and to the work that we do. But I took that leap, and I was able to take what was relevant, or try out things and see if they were relevant, and then see what worked. I also kind of worked with different mentors and coaches and stuff. And like that, again, nothing really clicked or stuck with me at that stage. So what I was doing is I was piecing it all together to create what would work in this industry and what would work for me and my family. So after a bunch of testing and figuring out and a whole lot of consumption of information, I got to the point where my classes were starting to be fully booked, that I was making wait lists, that I was referring on lactation clients to other people because I didn't have space for them. And once I got to that place where my business was successful, people started asking me, well, how did you do it, Niamh? So I do a lot of kind of informal teaching when we were at events or at study days, or if we met, even when I met the local pregnancy yoga teacher outside of school, because our kids are in the same class. So because I was doing so much of that, like just informally with people, I decided to set up an Instagram account to kind of share tips on the business and mindset side of being in birth and lactation work. And what came up quickly was people kind of feeling a little bit in competition with other people, but what I wanted to put across was that we're all a community, that we're not a competition. And that kind of became my little mantra, my little motto. So then people were needing more. The Instagram account was helpful, but people really needed more. So I set up a small group program that I ran live over a couple of months, and that eventually became the Nest program as it is now, which is a 6-month small group coaching inner circle program, which is absolutely amazing and really brings people, it's so comprehensive, has a whole program around it, as well as the weekly business coaching. So it's really a brilliant package for people who are ready to put the time and the commitment into growing their business. But what I was finding over time, after running the Nest program a few times, that there was a bit of a gap. So I'm running the Instagram account and the podcast as my free content to help people at that level. And then I have the Inner Circle program, the Nest program at that level, and my one-to-one coaching as well. But there was so many people in the middle who either weren't ready for the financial investment in the Nest program, or to go all in and the time commitment that is needed for that program. And there was more people who wanted to do a bit, are looking to grow their businesses, but maybe don't have the investment power for the Nest program, or maybe don't have the time to commit to something in a short container that is 6 months, and would rather do things over a longer period of time, or even just dip their toe into some business growth work. So that's where your Birth Biz Besties came from, the membership. It came in to bridge that gap with the people who the free support wasn't enough for anymore, but maybe the intensive program or the one-to-one was a little bit beyond what either they needed or what they were ready for at this time. Because It's not just community over competition. It's that we all need community no matter what we're doing in life. So for me, needing it in parenting, I fully believe that people need it in their employment as well. Because I don't really think that self-employment is natural. Even if we look at people's roles in the past before employment was formalized and paid, people would have worked together in all those different roles. So if someone was good at building, they would build the houses, and then other people would help them as kind of more laborers. If someone was good at cultivating the land, then other people would help them with different aspects of that. But everybody was kind of working together towards the common goal of keeping everybody alive and happy. So when employment then moved into the more formal, it was still set up around structures. I mean, we can argue over the capitalism and the top-down hierarchy and all of that, but it was still built about bringing people together to complete a common goal. So self-employment is kind of outside of all of that. It's individuals working on their own to complete individual goals. And then what happens is most people end up working alone. They're feeling isolated. They've no one to bounce ideas off. They've no one to talk about when they had a hard day that actually understands the work that they're doing. They've no one to complain to. They've no one to celebrate with. While self-employment gives us loads of freedom, it takes all of that away from us as well. And even though we have so many more communication tools than any time we did before, I'm communicating with you now. I don't know where you are in the world. You can directly send me a message in real time while you're listening to this. People are still feeling ever more isolated. And I see that so much within the birth work community when people are working completely on their own. So something like the Your Birth Biz Besties membership, it's trying to fill that gap. It's trying to help people come together in community who are doing similar type work so that we can all support each other, all learn from each other, and all have a rant to each other when we need to. But what it also gives is what I had at breastfeeding group when I was the mum sitting in the chair, was that someone who was a little bit further along helping the group along. So that's what I come into the group. That's my role within the group, is to provide that little bit of education, that coaching to help people come on in their businesses, because I'm just that little bit further along than most of the members. But the members are all at different levels as well. So they do coach each other and help each other out as well. And when I was setting it up, it was really important for me that is how it would be, that it would be kind of like mixed stages, mixed levels, but also a mix of different birth and lactation professions. That I didn't just set up a membership, say, for lactation consultants or for antenatal educators, even though they're the two main backgrounds that I come from. Because I feel that our community is much better and much more whole together, but also that the networking and collaboration opportunities are better when we have a mix of different type of birth workers in the room. And when we bring everybody together like that, this is where like the richest learning comes from. So what I've come to know is that as human beings, we need community, no matter what stage of life or business or whatever it is that we're at, whether we're a pregnant parent feeling completely and utterly alone, whether we're a breastfeeding mum wondering, am I the only one that feels like this? So what I've learned through all of this is whether you are a pregnant person feeling completely lost and alone, whether you are a breastfeeding parent who really doesn't know what you're doing or whether you're going to get through it, whether you're in that postpartum haze thinking, is it only me that can't cope? All of those lessons come true when we're working on our own in a business as well. And we need the same sort of supports. We need supports from other people having a similar peer experience to us, and we need supports from people who are a little bit further along the journey and can help us see the future, can help us work through the challenges that we're having, and can give us advice and information sometimes and say, listen, why don't you try this? So if you're kind of nodding along thinking, oh my God, this is exactly what I need. If you're listening to this when it comes out, the doors for Your Birth Besties are currently open, but only for about another 24 hours. Because I really like to bring in a cohort of people together, get them settled, get everybody supported, get everybody up and running so they know where they're going in the membership. And then at different times of the year, open the doors again to allow more people in so I can work closely with them in that way again. So if that sounds good to you, come and join us in the community. But even if this isn't the right support for you, don't do this work alone. You deserve to be supported in your business and every other aspect of your life. And don't just stay in the group that you trained with where everyone's at the same level. It's really, really beneficial to have people from different professions and also at different levels of their business come together to support each other and to have someone who's formally there to really help bring the whole group on. Because what we need in all of this is people who understand what it is that we do and who we can reach out to for the support that we need. So thank you very much for listening today. I will be back with you next week as always, and I would love for you to pop me a DM if this brought up anything for you, or you just want to say hello, or you're interested in any of the things that I talked about today. Okay, bye. And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If anything we talked about today resonated and you're thinking, I need more of this, but with actual support around me, that's exactly what the Your Birth Biz Besties membership is. Coaching, community, and people who genuinely get the world that you work in. Doors open really soon for a really short time, so jump on the waitlist at yourbirthbiz.com/membership waitlist. The link is in the show notes.